COVID-19 webinar. This is the largest webinars we've held, and so we're watching you all try to log in. We have approximately 2,500 attendees who are registered, and right now approaching 1,600 of them. So we know that we're going to continue to grow as we move through these next few minutes. But again, just wanted to welcome you to this call. My name is Tracy Casper. I am a broker owner out of Boise, Idaho. I am also this year's chair of the Broker Engagement Committee, and I am proud to also have with me my co-chair, Donna Smith. She is from Greenville, South Carolina. So between the two of us, just a huge thank you to everyone who is on the call. Another big thank you to all of our staff experts. I cannot wait to share them with all of you, to hear what they have to share with us. They have great information on what all of our NAR policy and legislative staff have been working on diligently. They have great news to share. They have good information for all of you to share, so that you'll be able to walk away with really good tools to use, information to be able to use. And then we have an amazing broker panel at the last half of this. So you're going to hear from brokers from all over the country who are going through exactly what all of us are going through. And they have great testimonials to what they're doing, what's working, and what they've been able to do to adjust to our new world. So with that, I want to introduce and welcome with us Bob Goldberg. And Bob is CEO of the National Association of Realtors. And Bob, you and your staff have been working tirelessly. I know this is hours and hours on hours getting all of this done and put forward for us. So Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. And thank you, everybody. So that a couple of the logistics. If you're a participant, you should be auto-muted. I'll ask the panelists to also go and physically mute their mics because we're getting a lot of feedback. And then when your turn comes up as a panelist, then you can unmute the microphone. So that would be helpful, number one. Number two, I think everybody sees on the box, the chat box, that is an opportunity to any questions that you may have. And Tracy will help moderate it, and I'll help moderate. We'll all be there to help make sure your questions get answered and teed up. But while I have all of you, and I'm sure as President Vince gets on here in just a minute, we'll ask him to say a few words as well. As Tracy said, we have all 350 plus employees fully deployed. They're working, they will tell you, longer and harder than they have at any point, because the intensity and the focus of dealing with our members' issues and opportunities is still there 24/7. So they are, we worked really hard to make sure our employees are ready to serve members first. I tell you, one of the things that all of us should be proud of with our association and our leadership, when this pandemic was just being talked about, one of the things that we did is made a decision before anybody is that we told all employees they had to work remote for 2 days. This was a month ago, just so we could test our systems in case the worst thing ever happened. As CEO, and I know our leadership, we didn't think for a second we'd really be having to implement that. But we tested all of our systems to make sure that we could serve our members while everybody is remote, including our call center. So we have a call center, which we'll give you the hotline for that call center because it's open for our members to call. And we even have a special COVID-19 response line that can cover the key issues going on with the virus, where to point you to, as well as the CARES Act. I'll close with just a couple of things because I want the focus to be on what our team has done working on the administration and with Treasury to protect the interest of our industry, our members, and our brokers. But I also would be remiss if I didn't tell you, we introduced late last week a program called Right Tools Right Now. It is a play where we have basically discounted and offered many of our products, our services, our education for free. We're foregoing lots of revenue in return to give members extra value during a trying time. We are already over 20,000 members in 4 days have already taken advantage of it. And we've already given away almost $2.5 million of products and services for our members. Also, you saw we introduced yesterday a telemedicine program for members that don't have access to their insurers or through Medicare, where we will pay. We went in and credit to our leadership team and credit to our finance committee, who agreed to spend multi-seven figures out of our reserves to pay for members and their families to have free access for several months to a teledoc. And that's what the CDC and the administration are recommending, that our members use a telemed option before clogging up emergency rooms or their doctors for anything. So it could be anywhere from a sprained ankle or anything related to, God forbid, even worse with a virus. They can at least advise you what to do with a doctor. 2,300 physicians are part of this program. So we were first out of the box with something like that, again, with the goal of really caring about the health and welfare of our members. So Tracy, that's all I have now. I want us to focus on the core part of what we're here to do. At the very end, if there's some Q&As, we'll look at what comes up in the chat box. And if we don't get to it in this, we can certainly post a Q&A with any answers that you all may have. So Tracy, I'll turn it back over to you, unless Vince is on here. Vince, are you there yet?
Okay. We may not have Vince quite yet.
Hey guys, Vince, we're just having technical issues. For some reason, I've talked with O'Quinn. He's not showing up as a participant, so we can't unmute him. So we can just go ahead. Bob, if you want to go ahead and introduce Nate, we can start with our advocacy section.
Yeah, so Nate needs no introduction. We'll let Nate come in and introduce himself. But you know, we have been working very closely on the with our brokers and our advocacy side. And I want you know, Nate who is a superstar. Nate, introduce yourself to everybody who may not know you. We're almost at 2,200 participants. And Tracy, you are correct. That is the largest video conference that we have done to date in this new world order. So congrats to all of you all. But Nate, let me turn it over to you and take the ball and run as our public and federal issues liaison.
Thanks, Bob. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited that we've got so many people on this call today to get this valuable information. National Association of Realtors has done great work from the advocacy standpoint, as well as other sectors within the organization, to make sure that we are on the cutting edge of information and resources that are available to help us navigate through this challenging time. So as Bob mentioned, I am the 2020 liaison for federal and public issues, and it's been a pleasure and honor to serve in that role. But without further ado, I would like to get into the meat of the program and introduce Sarah Young, who is the Director of Real Estate Services and Policy Oversight within the advocacy team. And Sarah and her team have been doing an amazing job at walking through and navigating through this difficult process and this challenge that we've got within our nation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sarah Young to introduce her panelists. So Sarah, take it away.
Sarah, you might be muted. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'll try that again. Thank you, Nate, and thank you for having me. As you know, we've been very busy here at NAR. Our team has been responding to a flurry of legislative proposals, and we're going to share with you some of the highlights. But I just want to let you know that all of this information is available online at nar.realtor/coronavirus. Our staff is going to talk about some of the frequently asked questions that we're addressing. But please use your chat function. If we can't address your question online today, we'll try to do so within the FAQs that are living documents online. You may have seen the most recent relief package that was passed into law, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, otherwise known as the CARES Act. included significant provisions aimed at assisting small businesses during this COVID-19 outbreak. We want to talk about a couple of the provisions in the CARES Act, and I am going to turn it over to a few of our policy staff to talk about those provisions. You'll see on the slides, we're going to start with Erin Stackley. She is going to talk about our work on the SBA loan provisions and kind of what that can mean to our members. So Erin, I'll turn it to you to give a quick update on SBA loans.
Great, thank you, Sarah. A quick update on SBA loans. That's going to be tough because there's a lot to cover, and this is a whole new world that we are living in right now when it comes to SBA programs. But the CARES Act created 2 new SBA programs to assist businesses that are struggling due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The first is the 7A Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP loans. And the second is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance Grant. Both of these programs are intended to help businesses impacted by the pandemic stay open and keep employees on payroll. For both, the definition of small business has been expanded. It includes any business with 500 or fewer employees, includes independent contractors, self-proprietors, and the self-employed. I'll start with talking about the PPP loans. The Paycheck Protection Program loans are based on the average monthly payroll costs for the year prior that a business applies for. If the business wasn't open this time of year in 2019, they'll look at your payroll costs for the beginning of 2020. The business has to have been open before February 15th of this year to qualify. Those loans are available. They're based on, so you figure out your average monthly payroll costs, multiply that by 2.5, and that's how much you can get for the loan programs. It maxes out at 10 million, and as you're looking at individual salary expenses, those are maxed out at $100,000 per employee. So you would prorate that throughout the year. Once you get these loans, they're intended to cover an 8-week period. And if the businesses maintain at payroll levels of at least 75% of their average monthly payroll costs and keep the same employee headcount as before February 15th of this year, their loans are eligible to be 100% forgiven at the end of that 8-week period. If you dip below those levels, so you're maybe going below the 75% average payroll costs, or if you have to let someone go, you're still eligible for partial forgiveness. That phases out as the numbers go lower. The big question that we have about these is whether or not independent contractors should be counted by a brokerage when they are calculating their payroll and employee numbers. We learned late last night from the SBA interim final rule that was released that the answer to that question is no. Since independent contractors can apply for their own PPP loans, they should not be counted by other businesses. There's one more aspect to this. In order to qualify for the forgiveness, besides keeping those payroll and employee numbers up, you have to use it for an eligible use. Eligible uses are payroll costs, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. Applications for the program went live today for small businesses and sole proprietors. You would apply directly through an SBA lender. There has been a lot of confusion surrounding this application process. As I mentioned, the interim final rule came out last night. The lenders are really struggling to get their platforms up and to figure out what sort of documentation is required, etc. So you've probably been hearing, if you've been following this at all, that most SBA lenders are not currently accepting applications. That is correct. If you have a relationship with an SBA lender, I would say reach out to them, ask them, when will you be accepting applications? What documents do I need to collect and provide so that you can be ready to get that application in as soon as possible. Applications for independent contractors and the self-employed open next Friday on April 10th. So now I'm going to talk about the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Grants really briefly. EIDL loans is a program that already exists within the SBA. Unlike the PPP loans, you would apply directly through the SBA for these. They have launched a new website that has a streamlined, more efficient application process to help people through this pandemic. These loans are for working capital needs. They can be for up to $2 million. And what the CARES Act did was create an advance grant within these loans. That advance grant can be $10,000. It is supposed to be dispersed by the SBA within 3 business days. I have not heard from a lot of people that have already applied and received these grants, so I'm interested in getting feedback from people in the field as to how that's going. The eligible uses for the advanced grants are similar to what you can use the PPP loans for. That is paid leave, maintaining payroll, mortgage payments, rent payments, repaying other debt obligations, and increased costs due to supply chain disruptions. If you use it for those eligible uses, that $10,000 advance grant is also forgivable. A big question we're getting is whether or not you can apply for both of those loans. Yes, you can. However, if you receive the advance grant from the EIDL and you get forgiveness under the PPP loan, that advance grant amount is subtracted from the forgiveness in the PPP program. We have a page up on nar.realtor/coronavirus that is an FAQ specifically for the SBA program. So I encourage you to check that out. We have links to the applications. We have links to the SBA Treasury resources, as well as some from the Senate Small Business Committee, and just all the things that you might need, hopefully, to understand and utilize these programs. We are updating them regularly as we get more information. So check back and please reach out if there's anything else that you all need.
Thank you so much, Erin. This is so much information, and she's done such an amazing job on this FAQ that we've posted online. So please make sure you look at it. If it doesn't answer your questions, we will be updating that frequently as we continue to get field questions from our members. So if you've asked a question in the chat box to me privately, I will make sure I send that to Erin, and we'll see if we can get it answered within the chat function. If not, we will definitely make sure that we're incorporating these into our FAQs as we move forward. With that, I want to turn over to Nia Duggins. She's going to talk about another provision in the CARES Act that would provide for pandemic unemployment assistance for independent contractors. We've also gotten a ton of questions on this program. There's a lot that we still don't know, but what we do know, Nia has also been able to put into an FAQ. So Nia, if you could talk a little bit with the group about what you're hearing and what they should know about this program.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and great to see you all virtually. Definitely a new way of life for us all, but we're making it work. I would like to speak with you a little bit about the CARES Act and what it means by as it relates to the pandemic unemployment compensation. The CARES Act does provide for states to elect to participate in a program called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And this program is specifically is designed to allow for states to enter into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor to provide unemployment compensation benefits to independent contractors as well as self-employed individuals whose work primarily has been impacted as a result of the COVID-19 public health emergency. Again, states would have to elect to participate in this program. And so although the federal law that was just passed under the CARES Act does allow for this, it's not mandatory for states to participate. The states are incentivized, though, to participate in this program because they receive 100% federal funding under this program to provide these expanded benefits. Under the CARES Act, folks want to know, how would I be eligible to receive those benefits? So essentially, your work has been impacted by COVID-19, meaning that you're unable to work, or you have an inability to work due to impacts or a direct effect as a result of COVID-19. Individuals who do have the ability to telework with pay or to receive other paid sick leave or paid paid leave benefits are deemed ineligible to receive unemployment compensation. Right now, we have no idea what telework with pay means, or what other paid leave benefits would include, right? So we don't understand right now or have clarity on the scope of that. I will say that we have received some questions from members asking if telework with pay counts if, for example, you're able to telework partially, but not fully able to close transactions as a result of COVID-19. And right now, we don't have information on that. Another question we've received is whether real estate services being deemed essential in a particular state would impact your eligibility to receive unemployment compensation. And our initial inclination is to say no, because there are many essential services that are listed within various state orders. And so it does not at this time, and should not at this time, impact your ability to still apply for those benefits. We have not received additional guidance from the Department of Labor, which we are anticipating regarding this. As I mentioned with this program, it is fully funded by the federal government. However, it's fully administered by states. So in order to apply for unemployment compensation, you would need to go through your state unemployment office. The federal government, there are not any federal agencies that will be administering this program in that regard. So to determine your individual eligibility, as well as the amount you would receive, you would have to go through your individual unemployment compensation office. Broadly, we know that more than likely states will be looking at prior net income from self-employed individuals, as well as prior tax returns, in looking at computations for how much you would be eligible to receive. The program provides for up to 39 weeks of unemployment compensation benefits to individuals who have been deemed eligible under the state, as well as partial and full unemployment compensation benefits may be available. So these are some of the things that specifically the CARES Act does spell out. As I mentioned, the state labor agencies are who you need to contact regarding this. There's also more information and guidance that states are beginning to put on their website. I know that New York has put up a helpful infographic on guiding individuals through applying for pandemic unemployment compensation, as well as some other states have already entered into agreements with the Department of Labor, but it's best to check with your state unemployment compensation office. And some of them are getting information in real time at a faster rate than we are right now. So it's best to check with them. As Sarah mentioned, there's also information on our website. We just released FAQs yesterday evening on unemployment compensation. Please check those out as well. And we will continue to update and update those daily and provide additional information on this as we get it. So thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Great, thanks so much, Nia. I'm seeing a lot of questions come through on the chat function. So what we're going to do is just take stock of all those questions and make sure that we get them answered. Unfortunately, we don't have time on the webinar right now to go through all of them. We have about 5 more minutes, and we wanted to touch on a couple other provisions in the CARES Act, benefits that I think you'd want to know about. So I want to turn to Evan Lydiard now. Evan is our Director of Tax Policy at NAR, and he's going to share some of the tax benefits that came out of the CARES Act. Evan?
I know he's on the call because I saw him earlier.
Yeah, we don't have him muted. So Evan, are you able to unmute yourself?
Why don't we go to Ken? We'll go to Ken first, and then Evan, if you're able to get back on, I'll turn to you next. So, Ken, can you talk a little bit about the forbearance options that are offered through the CARES Act for consumers?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So one of the biggest programs coming out of the federal government right now is forbearance. And really what this is assuring housing security for everyone as they deal with this pandemic response. So the federal backed loans right now are eligible for 6 months of forbearance immediately if you call in and request it, and then an extension of an additional 6 months. After that period, there are a number of specified ways of modifying the loan. So if you've taken the full 12 months, what they'll do is they'll add it on to the escrow to be paid off over 5 years if you can. If you can't, then they have another form of modification where they can reduce those payments or even modify it further if your income has been impaired over the long term, if your job is gone or if you've had to take a different job. Outside of the government-backed programs, it's a really smattering of different programs. Each bank has its own programs. We know that they are very active in offering modifications in forbearance. They learned a lot about this after the last crisis, that it's in their interest to have people continue to pay, even if it's a few months late, than not. Secondly, one of the other things that we're dealing with is the sharp increase in rates that we saw right after the onset of the pandemic. Rates fell right before it, and they spiked up. This impaired a bunch of deals. The Federal Reserve responded very aggressively, buying up mortgage-backed securities, and rates fell as a result. The problem, though, is there was an unintended consequence that this is actually creating problems for servicing, not necessarily the Fed's purchasing, but the sheer volume of forbearance that is coming through the system now. This wasn't part of the original contracts. This isn't something that servicers are necessarily set up to do. And by that, I mean forbearance on this scale. When in a pandemic-like situation, essentially these servicers are required to advance 2 to 3 months of principal and interest payments before the federal government kicks in. And that could amount to tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. Again, they're not set up to do it. And if they end up crashing, then there's no one there to advance these payments. And we're missing a vital link in the system. Beyond that, I'd mention one other important thing, that being, excuse me, student debt and student debt forbearance. Currently, loans that are government backed are being allowed to have 60 days of forbearance if you call in and ask for it. Also, during the next 60 days, there's no interest on those loans. Again, it's just those that are backed by the Department of Education. But once again, you have to call in. And then finally, lastly, in terms of the impact, potential negative impact to the credit for current and future home buyers, there are clear guidelines from FHA, VA, Rural, and Fannie and Freddie that stipulate that servicers have to use a particular code indicating that the borrower should not get a negative credit impact as long as they do a forbearance program that's agreed upon. Likewise, this servicing industry uses a similar code, and it has been sending out messages to remind servicers that if the consumer gets a forbearance that is agreed upon, then they have to use these codes that prevent consumers from getting these negative credit effects. And that's important for future home buyers and sellers. So that's kind of the macro view on the Housing Finance channel, and look forward to any questions that you have in the chat box, or you can email me directly. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Ken. I know that Evan was on and he was having some technical difficulties. Evan, were you able to dial back in? If not, I can just briefly cover the tax provisions that Evan was going to talk about. Probably not as eloquently as Evan, but you may have all heard that Americans will be receiving $1,200 payments below certain income thresholds. So it would be $1,200 per adult plus $500 for each child under the age of 17. We will start seeing these payments go out hopefully in the next week or two, possibly 3 weeks. It would be great if you all would spread the word that the IRS is not going to be asking you for your Social Security number. You should not be receiving an email. Unfortunately, cash payments like these encourage fraudsters out there to try to get personal information out of you. So these cash payments will be dispersed directly from the IRS based on your previous tax filing. So we've got more information about that online. There was another provision within the CARES Act which would allow realtors with retirement accounts, including IRAs, to take early withdrawals of up to $100,000 from those accounts without having to pay the 10% early withdrawal penalty. Those who withdraw the funds can recontribute them to the plan over 3 years, or can keep the money and pay the tax on the withdrawals over a 3-year period. This is another way people can access funds during these difficult times. With that, I know that was a lot of information, but we wanted to give you a quick overview on some of the frequently asked questions that we're getting daily. Again, please check out nar.realtor.com/coronavirus. You'll go and you'll see there's different links for the different FAQs depending on which program you want more information about. And I'm going to look through the chat function and make sure that we are copying every single question that's been coming through. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our next presenter. Thanks so much for having us.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Casey Stewart, and I'm the Director of Member Development for the National Association of Realtors. I have a resource I'd like to share with you that you might not be familiar with, but it's something that you should be sharing with your agents right now, and that's NAR's Financial Wellness Program. You work so hard as brokers to recruit and retain your agents, and this program can help them stabilize their personal and business finances so that they can get through the next 30, 60, 90 days. There are 2 main components of the program that I want to bring to your attention, and these resources are free to your agents and to you. They're a member benefit through NAR. The first is an interactive website that can be found at financialwellness.realtor. And hopefully that URL is up on the screen. This site contains various tools, calculators, and downloadable worksheets to help your agents. Additionally, there is a short 10-question financial assessment that you can take. And once you do, the platform will generate customized goals. The other resource I want to share with you is our webinar series. We are producing very timely webinars, such as funding your unexpected business expenses. And we just did one yesterday for brokers titled Helping Your Agents Through an Economic Downturn. I encourage you to visit the second link here. We are constantly coming out with new webinars, and you can access everything that we've archived as well. And then there's one more resource I want to share with you. Be on the lookout for a social media campaign where we will be posting very quick and concise tips to help your agents, such as how do you build an emergency fund right now. Please feel free to share these with your agents and through your own social channels. Thank you so much for your time. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Deanne Rymarowitz, Associate Counsel for NAR.
Thank you so much, Casey, and thank you to the Broker Engagement Committee for inviting Legal Affairs to participate in today's webinar. I have just a few resources to share with you that NAR Legal Affairs has produced in the last few weeks. But first, as the coronavirus has spread across the country and disrupted life as we know it, NAR's guidance for its members doing the business of real estate has evolved to meet the members' ever-changing needs. So for example, on March the 4th, when we had 80 reported cases in the US, the typical guidance was along the lines of, may I ask potential buyers about recent travel abroad? And fast forward just a couple of weeks, and on March 26th, when our most recent shelter-in-place guidance document was produced, we had about 85,000 cases in the US. Of course, now, 8 days later, we have almost 240,000 cases in the US. And so our guidance has evolved as your questions and needs have evolved. So now the typical question is, how can I still close a deal under a shelter-in-place order? And in an ever-changing situation like we have, it's very fluid and dynamic. It can be challenging to provide guidance or to know how to handle a transaction. But 2 things that we have found that can help navigate through these uncharted waters. First is having a decision-making standard, something that you can come back to no matter what the situation is to help you make good decisions in your business. And the second thing is remembering the basic fundamental building blocks of good transaction management. Now, early on, NAR developed a decision-making standard that we've been using, and we urge members and brokers alike to adopt. Now, I've adapted it a little bit for transactions for today's webinar, but here's the decision-making standard, what we come back to, and that is, how can I provide first-class client service and move the transaction forward while demonstrating care for the well-being of others, reducing the risk of exposure to and spread of COVID-19, and complying with local, state, and federal public health policies. Now, you'll have access to this recording at the end of this, so if you're madly taking notes to write that down, just know that you will have this entire recording and you can copy that down later. So the second thing, getting back to the basics, it's important to remember the fundamentals of transaction management because the principles don't change even though the situation might. So again, this is one of those touchstones, something that you can come back to no matter what the situation is. And the first thing always is to comply with the law. It's never been more important and we can't say it enough. So all of the guidance that you receive from NAR Legal Affairs will always say comply with local, state, and federal public health authorities and any shelter in place or other executive orders in your area. We must comply with those directives regarding quarantines, self-isolation, social distancing, and essential services if real estate has been designated an essential service in your state or in your local county or city if there is no state order. The second thing is to communicate. Communicate with your agents and with your clients and with the other parties. Keep everyone advised as much as possible, both as to what is known and what is not known. Be patient and try to encourage your clients, your agents, and everyone else involved in the transaction to do the same. Everyone is facing these same difficult times, and you'll all need to work together to figure it out. So that's agents on the other side, escrow, if you have closing attorneys, title companies, everyone. The third thing is to go back and review legal contracts and update them as needed. Here's the basic fundamental. Buyers and sellers have always been able to work together to amend a contract and their obligations under the contract based on any new circumstances. Now, many state associations have worked swiftly over the past few weeks to develop an addendum or additional clauses that you can use in your contracts that address COVID-19 related delays. What we want to discourage is agents kind of going off on their own and making up their own language that may cause more liability than it protects. So you as brokers can take that lead, work with your legal counsel, check with your local or state association, whoever produces your forms, to get that addendum. And the fourth basic principle is to use best practices to meet your needs today. These days, that means remote work, virtual meetings using FaceTime, Zoom, or Skype, or any of the others that are out there, using virtual tours and 3D floor plans, going 100% paperless if you're not already, using electronic signatures, remote online notarization. This is a developing area. There are many states who already had remote online notarization in their state law. Several others recently have taken action to implement through emergency executive orders, remote online notarization. So check with your local area to see if your state is impacted. And of course, electronic recording. Several locations, recordings are still happening via electronic means. Now, over the past 3 weeks, NAR has developed a series of guidance documents, which are all found on the coronavirus topic page. Again, that's nar.realtor.com/coronavirus. There you'll find general guidance on how to deal with COVID-19, as well as specific transactional guidance for listed properties, properties that are in escrow, and even leased properties. Questions that we have heard from you. And please, if you have more questions, let us know, and we will provide guidance on that. Literally, we are working on updating these today. So what you see there, if you went to that page right now and clicked on the guidance for realtors, it will be different in about 3 hours because we're literally finishing on working on more additional guidance for you. And as I said, our most recent document, our shelter in place document, is also part of that coronavirus guidance for realtors, and we are updating that as well. Now, remember, all of these resources are available to you for free, and we do our best to keep them updated. So please check back on that coronavirus topic page regularly. But like a ship that has to change course in a storm, NAR's guidance may also be refined. And what we say today may not be relevant. In my notes I have in 2 weeks, it may not be relevant in 2 hours. So we are constantly monitoring the situation for you on your behalf and trying to get that guidance out to you. We will continue to do that and continue to use that decision-making framework to provide the best possible guidance for you and your agents at the time. So thank you so much. And I will now turn it back to Casey for our next element.
Okay, thank you, Deanne. Now we are going to get into our broker to broker panel, which I know all of you are looking forward to. I want to see if Robert Bailey is on the call. Robert, are you there? And be sure to try and unmute yourself. Okay, it doesn't sound like he's there. So I'm going to go ahead and moderate this. I apologize. I'm a consolation prize, but we'll keep it moving, okay? So first, we are going to start with Christina Pappas. Are you there, Christina?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi. Thanks so much for being here, Christina. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how many agents you have in your office, and then I will give you your question.
All right. So welcome, everybody. This is a really cool feat NAR is doing for us, 2,200 people, so no pressure, right? But I think it's a really cool thing. We have a lot of people asking a lot of questions, but I'm Christina Pappas. I am Vice President of the Kai's Company and Illustrated Properties. We're located in Southeast Florida, so Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. We have about 3,500 associates across those 3 counties and actually go all the way up into New about 7 counties.
Great, thank you. So our question for you, Christina, is how are you through this pandemic communicating and working with your staff?
So that's a great question. We're a larger organization, but I think during this time, many states have the shelter in place or stay at home order. So a lot of people are working from home. We are blessed with a really incredible leadership team. And like Bob said, we are lucky to be in a world that is typically virtual anyway. We're meeting with our customers and with each other virtually. But in this time, we definitely have asked our staff and our leadership of our managers and our administrators to step up. And boy, have they ever stepped up. It's incredible to see during challenging times how well communities come together. And so for our company, it's been pretty great. The catch is, like with everything, everybody communicates differently. We all learn differently and we communicate. So we've learned that there's no such thing as over communication, but figuring out the best communication per person, per office, and per leadership has definitely been where we're trying to hone our skills. And we're still doing it. We've been working virtually probably for about 2 weeks now. So we are asking our managers, and we're probably communicating more than we ever have, but getting together via conference calls, video calls, and emails. Because we know some people are, will read, some people will be better in groups, and some people are going to be better on the phone. And so we are offering a lot of different types of communication, but we really believe that there's no such thing as over communication, right? We've never lost a customer by over communicating, and it's the same with our leadership. But we are having to balance really the best way. And so we do know that reaching out to our staff individually at this time has been important too. So if you are a broker and you have staff working from home, especially the staff working from home that may be single, it can be a little bit of a lonely time for them. So having some sort of face-to-face connection like you guys are able to see today can be really impactful. So we're encouraging our leadership to call their associates via FaceTime as well. When I call my leadership, I've never FaceTime more with leadership than I have. But it's a really cool thing, because I think as we're learning how to better communicate with each other, whether it be on a Zoom conference call, a WebEx, or WhatsApp groups we love. We've created several different WhatsApp groups for different things. As we've learned to communicate that way, we're also learning more about our leadership and learning the best ways to do that. But really having a great leadership team behind you, I think makes a difference, and we really have a great leadership team and a great staff to do so. But we did work diligently in getting our 200 plus employees to work from home. So that definitely was.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, next panelist. Let's go to Stephen. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Stephen, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your business and how many agents you have, and then I'll give you your question.
I'm the principal broker of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Hudson Valley Properties. We're about an hour north of Manhattan. We have 12 offices, about 350 agents, and that's about all you need to know, right?
Yeah. Okay, here's your question. How are you preparing your company financially, and what activities have you been doing to get through this pandemic in the next few months?
Okay, well, interestingly, we really hit the fan here about 2 weeks ago from today, when they changed us from a work from home, employees don't come into the office, but realtors could basically still conduct business in some convoluted fashion. And when I had to put a plan together, I wasn't aware of any CARES Act or SBA disaster loans. That's how quick they were able to put those into place. So I needed a real disaster loan. The first thing that I realized that the people in the company needed was leadership. They wanted to know that that the leadership was in charge, that we were in control of what's going on, that there was a plan together, and that there was going to be a company to come back to when all this was over. It got real scary quick in New York. So first thing we had to do, we had to prepare quickly, and we had to work, and we had to do something very decisively. So this isn't your savings and loan downturn we had in 2008 to 2015, but we were able to gradually scale back our overhead. This wasn't 9/11, which was just a complete shock for a couple of days. But then we got over it and realized some sort of new normal. But this is a worldwide pandemic. It's affecting every country, everybody around the world. So it's serious. It's something that we've never had to deal with before.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought first thing was, well, how long will I be out of business for, and how do I prepare for that? So, and how to pull something out of the air. So I came to some sort of understanding with myself that I would be shut down completely for 3 months without any income. Then it would take me another 3 months to ramp back up to where I'd be earning the same income that I was before this actually hit. I really based it just on watching the news and what was going on in China, what's going on in Italy. So there was no reason for that, but it seemed to make sense to me. So I quickly looked at the resources I had available, what I thought I could gather up in a short period of time, and then I had to build a budget around that. So it didn't take long to realize that I needed to cut my overhead by about 2/3 of what it was on Friday, and I had to cut it by the following Monday. So I sat down with my CFO. We put a budget together. Immediately called the bank and shared our budget with them and tried to line up additional credit lines. We looked at forbearance with any outstanding loans and mortgages. Just had some good conversations. So I can't tell you how important it was to have a good banking relationship and personal guide that I knew that I could talk to sort of help navigate through these waters. Next, what I did was I cut any unnecessary expenses. I went right through my payables, and I cut anything that we absolutely didn't need. I called Amex and other credit cards. I stopped all my auto pays and asked for any relief or any programs that they specifically had. I just went right down the line and started conversations. So then simultaneously, I had conversations with my leadership team. I have 5 key people in my company. I have a CFO and 4 senior leaders. I was honest with them. I shared my plan, a financial situation. I told them that I was foregoing my paycheck, and my wife was too. She actually runs our marketing department, very active in the company. So I explained my thoughts, and I sort of felt this is like wartime conditions. This is like living in London when the bombs are coming down, and you got to worry about food and shelter being the most important thing. Wasn't about the paycheck now. It was about food and shelter and kindness. And these people are making substantial incomes, and each one of them agreed to cut themselves back to less than they would have made collecting unemployment after that $600 bonus came into play. My CFO even offered to take no pay because he didn't need it during these emergencies. That was, that was nice to have that type of leadership team in our corner. And of course, I also made the commitment to him that the company wouldn't make a profit after we reopened before they were repaid what they had contributed. I had a really great committed leadership team to make this work. So I scraped, I got by, and figured out I could easily knock well, not easily, but that I could knock my payroll down to 2/3 of what it was almost overnight. Then I only kept the necessary vendors. Others I put on pause, sort of like that word. And those that I kept, I had to negotiate down to 30 to 40% of what they were receiving in the past. So that's a 60 to 70% discount. And you have an honest conversation with a vendor. It's the only way you can continue doing business. Money. I found almost all of them to the T was willing to fall into a range that fit into my overhead. I've been a good partner with them. I've been a good client. I paid my bills, so everybody understood. And by the time I started talking to everyone, these relief packages were coming into play. So everybody else was getting their own type of relief as well, and we're sort of, changing negotiations on the fly. I had the same conversation with my landlords, which were really nice people. I know most of them well, and we're working through what I can afford to pay, what relief is going to be out there, and there's no gun to my head because I took proactive measures, I believe. So my message to you guys is, if you want to control your destiny, you really need to put an emergency budget together today. Don't wait before it's too late. I think what's happening in New York could very well, you should expect it to happen throughout the rest of the country. This is sudden. And when it hits, it's going to plan for, it's going to hit hard. And you really have to plan for zero income. I mean, it's getting, even though money is flowing in, not flowing in, but coming in now because of deals that we made in September and February and March. I'm expecting come May and June that the faucet's going to be shut and nothing's going to come in. So hold on to your money. Don't just cut back on the amount of paper that you're ordering or cutting back unnecessary expenses. You really need an emergency budget right now. So to me, this was a great team building experience with my leadership team, although I wish we could have done it differently. And I think we're prepared to hunker down and at least survive and be able to ramp up and be back in business in 6 months. Coming out pretty strong from the gates. So wish everybody well, and good luck, and we'll all get through this together. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you so much. Let's move on to our next panelist, and that is Nikki. Nikki, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Thanks, Nikki. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your business and how many agents you have, and then I'll give you a question.
Okay. My name is Nikki Copa, and I am the Chief Compliance Officer and Managing Broker for Century 21 Award. We have 15 locations. We cover 3 different counties: San Diego County, Riverside, and Orange County, and just under 900 agents.
Wow. So Nikki, how are you over the past couple of weeks communicating differently with all of those agents?
Well, every day it seems to be a shift, as everyone else has said. The big thing for us is that we really had a big focus on live trainings in our offices and support from our managers. And our agents really did utilize our offices. So now all of a sudden they can't go outside the doors. We had to do a big shift to figure out how we could still get them the information that they needed and still reassure them in a time that information is changing every single day. They don't know what they can do and what they can't do. I love California, but we release a new form and a new practice every single day. So continuing to do that, we have put a lot of different things into play. Emails so that we have written instructions for those that like to read, but then video. And I know most of you are in that same boat where you're on video all day, every day. And part of the challenges there is, not everybody was ready to do that as far as our agent population. And so you end up becoming tech support and helping them upgrade modems so that they can actually hear when you do these video broadcasts. But when we first started out, we were averaging anywhere from 50 to 100 agents that would tune in. Now we're up 300 on almost all of our all company calls, which still is a far cry from 900, but we're learning to do them throughout the day with a little bit different information. And then the leadership team meets every single morning and we meet every single night to go through, okay, what's changed? What are the concerns? What's happening in areas so that we can shift our focus to make sure that we can reach out to the agents.
Thank you very much. Okay. Last one. Tiffany Meyer, are you there?
I am here.
All right. You're bringing up the rear, Tiffany. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your business and how many agents you have.
So I'm Tiffany Meyer. I'm the broker owner of Howard Hanna J.C. Meyer Realtors in Ashland, Mount Gilead, and Sunbury, Ohio. I have 32 agents, so relatively a small broker in the great state of Ohio.
Great. Okay. And your question, how are you converting your company and business practices from the physical world to the virtual?
So I would say, as most of the conversation has already been had, going to Zoom meetings and talking with our agents online or in FaceTime has obviously been a big conversion for us. As Nikki had said, my agents are the same. They like to come in the office every day. But from a business standpoint, I would say the biggest thing has been meeting with my accountants, attorneys, and bankers through Zoom or through just online portals. Yesterday was a very good meeting with our attorney, banker, and accountant all in the same call. We discussed what's going on with these new loans and how they're working. And how can we best benefit from it? How should we be moving money around, etc. But it was good to be able to see their face and to be able to read their body language with not necessarily sitting in the same room with them. So that has been a huge conversion for us. I would also say meetings with my staff and my bookkeepers, talking about our numbers, how are we doing on our in-contract numbers, listings, those kinds of things. Also doing those all in a virtual realm, again, so that I can see their faces, read their body language, and actually try to feel a little more personal connection than what we have from just talking to them on the phone.
Great. Okay, well, that wraps up our panelist session. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. And at this time, Tracy, I'm going to turn it back over to you and Donna.
Casey, it's Donna. I think Vince has joined us. Vince, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you share a few words of wisdom with us, please?
Sure. First of all, thank you. I want to thank all the brokers for all their resiliency and adaptability through all of this and constantly communicating with your agents when they need you the most right now in making sense of all this. Your leadership team recognized that you never needed your association more than you needed them now. And so we've really put out all the stops. Thank you to Bob Goldberg and his leadership in directing our staff, who's done an incredible job. I will dare say that there has never been a time that so much has been accomplished in organized real estate in such little time than these last several weeks. And we are continuing to work on your behalf. But now it's the time where we need to work together, where you continually are being engaged and letting us know that how are these programs working or not working in your communities, so that we could really get people going. We know that so much needs to be done, implemented at the state level and independent and with lenders. But now is the time where, as it's been said several times on this call, working together, we will get through this. So with that, again, I want to thank you. I hope that you and your loved ones stay safe. And I look forward to the time where we can all be in a crowded room together, closer than 6 feet apart. But right now, we will continue to reach out to you in any means possible, such as this. And so take care, and I'll turn it back to Donna or Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody who joined us today. The high number I saw was 2,448 brokers online for this meeting, and that's outstanding. Please know that your association is there for you. They have all the links available, and I would encourage each and every one of you to use the resources, help them get you through your daily task. As everyone has said, it's a hard road right now, and it's a totally different climate in which we're accustomed to, but together we'll all get through it. And I thank you all for being here. Staff's been wonderful. Thank you, staff, for putting this together, and from all of our participants. We appreciate you all. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I think that because we have so many of our questions that are scrolling, what we're going to do is direct you to broker.realtor. That will have the 800 number where you can call in and get specific answers to the questions that you have here. So we wanted to be cognizant of time and keep this to just about an hour, which we're just a few minutes over. Vince and Donna, both of you said it, and that is we couldn't thank our staff enough. We know that this is the policy side of NAR that has been in those rooms. Those policy makers have reached out to us, asked us. We've been there to advise what's the best way to handle this crisis. So we can't thank you guys enough, because we know that you're on the Hill. We know that you are in those rooms and having those good conversations. So Vince, you're exactly right. We could not be doing any of this without NAR and the support and the influence that you guys have had. So thank you for that. And then also, these are not things that happen overnight. These are relationships that are built over time. So to all of our policy staff, to all of our legislative staff, thank you guys. This was a big win for our members and for our clients that we're representing. So brokers, we know that we're all in this together. We have all been Zoomed out. We know that you're communicating a lot with your clients and with your agents. Keep it up. You know you have a group of us that you can reach out to at any point. If you just need to bounce ideas off of any of these panelists, just reach out to us and ask us, and we are there for you. So just wanted to give you that that kind of group hug. We're in it. We get it. We know that you guys are all struggling. We're struggling there with you. So we're going to be okay. Just stay tuned. Go to broker.realtor or nar.realtor/coronavirus. You're going to find all of those resources that were mentioned today, or that 800 number that you can call. Casey, Mark, Bob, thank you to all of you and your staff for putting this on. You guys were crazy good at getting this pulled off, so we appreciate it. And to the 2,400 brokers who are on with us. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you soon.